Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarian.
Carry on.
Let me check this Bishop of Gadar. Bishop of Gadar. No. We don't have. Wait a minute. Maybe probably this one. Okay. Oh, it's
There's no Norse page about it. I just realized on Wikipedia. I can't find a Norse, like Norwegian page about Gardar. Maybe you can find a Danish page. Where is this one?
I'll zoom out in a second when I save the image.
Northern China, right? I mean, dang. Way in the middle of nowhere.
All right, here we go. Zooming out.
So it's off the coast of a river in the middle of like
nowhere.
Yeah, I don't know where else to put that. It's not Mongolia, that's China?
No, it's not Mongolia. Mongolia is slightly up to the north, sort of
Okay.
here-ish. This is all also not really confirmed star fortresses, so could go
Those
there.
are good. Let's go look at some of the unconfirmed ones in Mongolia. I have a strong feeling that you're on to something. You've seen so many star forts that when you start looking for patterns, you're going to find them.
This one is in Terekol.
Wow.
And this is in the south of Siberia near the border with Mongolia. This again is not really confirmed, but it is a big fort. Yeah, it's at the border of. This is the border of Russia and Mongolia. Manila. You see it?
Wow.
Also in the Philippines. Sorry, I'm zooming out.
Yeah, 16th century.
And back to Indonesia.
So it's funny because, this is that connection again. You've got this royal family from the Habsburg. Then he was, I think Philip II was also like the Prince of the Netherlands, right? So the Philippines are connected to Formosa again.
Well, this was pretty much owned by the Dutch. This is Ghana, Africa. All these little teeny tiny fortresses along the coast of Ghana. Hey, this is one of those instances where if you go back in older images, you will find that that is indeed a little star fort, which in no way would this image have told you, other than my little pin mark. Hidden in the bush.
Fredericksburg.
God, it hurts the eyes. There you go.
Battenstein. Battenstein. Battenstan. Berenstain.
Oh my God, the Berenstain stain. Oh,
Battenstan Star Fortress.
tiny little Fort Orange. And the list goes on.
How about East Africa?
Yeah, I got a force.
And no Madagascar yet? We'll have to work on that. You know about their revolution in 2008 where a DJ took over the country, right?
This is near Madagascar, as close as we can get. It's all demolished, unfortunately.
Wow.
This is the remains of the fort. And this is a little museum dedicated to said fort. And that's on over here.
Interesting.
Because by the story, they got kicked out of Madagascar and went here. It's not still Dutch. There is not a lot still Dutch.
Well, I think New Amsterdam seems like a pretty sweet idea. I mean, like both the island and the former city.
And there's something here. Yeah, we got another Amsterdam here. This is Saint Martin. And there's Saba and Saint Eustatius. That is also Dutch. The wind is demolished. Very interesting. This one is still visible.
You know the funny thing about New Amsterdam colony, right? Like the Dutch were they said, "Hey, the British are coming," and the town said, "Well, you know, who cares? We could pay taxes to them as well as to, you know, just as much as to you." Didn't really cared enough to be their colonial leaders, so there was no reason to defend New Amsterdam, and so that's why they came and they just said, "Okay, you can be in charge because we're just, you know, either way, we're not in charge."
We're not in charge anyways. We'll just bug it off. Okay, goodbye.
Which is funny, you'd think, because the Dutch gave the most incentive to run. I mean, you know, and that's when they tore down. You know, the Wall Street used to be a star fort, and they tore down the wall, and that's why it's called Wall Street. Trace Italien, or a bastion fort, a phrase improperly derived from the French, meaning an Italian outline, is a fortification and a style that evolved supposedly during the early modern period of gunpowder when the canyon became to dominate the battlefield. It was first seen in the mid 15th century in Italy.
Look at all these beautiful forts you're showing.
I figured I'd just do a quick look through at like what people expect to see, which is the bell forts, you know, the Ricasoli fort, which is what we looked at earlier, and the design that, you know, this is the design that supposedly arrives from the 15th century in Italy, yet, you know, weirdly enough, you see it everywhere else, you know, and they're like, oh, well, that's because Italy was cool. So we want to be like the Italians. And I get that because the Italians do make cool stuff. Don't get me wrong. But the thing is, then you start looking and you start seeing them. I'm gonna go back to your window, like, but let's say like, if I just type star fort inks, yeah, we'll start seeing them like in all sorts of parts of the world, like China. We just found, I think, 2 so far, and then, you know, still looking for places, but like India, and particularly on these weird islands. And so that gets into like the Dutch Formosa, um, you know, is more than it seems. Let's put it that way. And it's a cool story. So we're starting to look into the history of Dutch Formosa. One of the things that leads us to and introducing Lean. You want to say a little bit about yourself?
Oh yeah, hello, I'm Lin. Oh yeah, I'm living in Tainan City in Taiwan,
Tainan
and
City.
yeah, Tainan City.
Nice. And
Yes,
so that's in the south of Taiwan, right?
that's right. We have it's Tainan City is next to Kaohsiung. Kaohsiung City would be like a second large city of Taiwan.
And so the weird thing that we were finding out is that like Taiwan used to be not part of mainland China, but actually was part for a while of the Dutch's colony, Dutch Formosa. Michael, who's got some stuff on star forts, he's got them all over the world, but he's got some right here in Tainan. This is kind of one of the things that led us into this weird tie into things, because I made this video that kind of talks about how this stuff was, you know, predating any one of us. It's all connecting us. And then people from out of the woodwork came, including Lynn and Michael. Michael, is there anything you want to comment about, like the layout here? I mean, this is so interesting. It's also that you know, it's, you also want to mention you didn't name this Sealandia. That Starfort Sealandia is actually the way it's titled there.
I think this is called the Eternal Golden Palace, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I really hadn't gotten around to giving it its right name, so well,
Right. Well, I mean, Eternal Golden Palace might not be the Eternal Golden name, but it is the Star Fort in Tainan.
This Star Fort in Tainan is very near to Zealandia Fort.
I took a picture of the street view of Fort Zealandia, where it actually shows that it is a star. For you guys,
Okay.
this is a sign outside of that same area that I just showed from above. I'm afraid you can't read
Mhm.
it, but yeah, it says Fort Zealandia right here.
It's interesting that, we're finding this parallel. I mean, that's interesting. Zealandia.
Zealandia, yes.
And so that was something, Lin, you were asking about because you were saying you'd seen an article that was like, I think it was in Medium magazine even. It was a pretty popular article. It was something about where is Old Zealand? Because we're talking about New Zealand. We see that on maps. But now we're starting to see this Zealand thing. As you asked that, as soon as you asked that, Zealand sort of started popping up all over the place in the Star
Mhm.
Fort searches. I mean, yeah, Mike, pull over to another Zealand. You want to take your pick.
Well, this is the province of Zealand in the Netherlands. These three islands, sort of, you see right here. Wait, these three islands, my bad. And this part here, these three islands, and this part here is the province of Zealand.
And look at all of these Star Forts. My gosh. All of these pins are different Star Forts.
Wow, that's a lot.
There you go.
It gets really interesting when you start thinking about how the Dutch are famous for their street layouts. Because you look at this and you're like, well, yeah, no wonder. You've got star forts and bastion forts, and you've got, even the canals, everything. And it's not just there, obviously. Denmark has it. And, obviously this is all over the place. But the Netherlands gets a lot of credit for having the best street designs in the world. The perfect flowing streets that don't need stops.
Hmm.
So where's this Star Fortress retransmit? Look at these.
This is the border between Belgium and the Netherlands.
It's crazy looking at this after World War II and everything's changed. But when you zoom in on that and you see those points, and you can really see, thankfully somebody cared, either the military or tourism. But these points are still there, and the water around them really define it too. The water paths makes it seem like it's more than just a military fortification that they have. I mean, granted, it's smart to have it for military, but just the amount of water means it had some practicality for agriculture and for large population.
But this is a Zealand full of forts, basically. What do we have here?
Mm-hmm.
It is nice. And you can see here, fortified points all the way up here, all the way down here. Small redoubt forts. Part of the old bastion still being there. And they've torn a lot of these places in the Netherlands down. I'm just sticking with Zealand for now because that's our.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that you've been doing this so long that you've seen so many thousands of examples, because considering how pixelated after agriculture and reconstruction and the wars everything is, I mean, it would be a nightmare. It's a nightmare looking through this stuff. It's incredible how many of these you've indexed.
that whole ring, those two rings here are Antwerp in Belgium. Just as a slight addition to things, but this here is another sea land, but we won't see it as a fort necessarily. But this is Sjælland in Denmark, Solland, which means soul. This area that ties it to Germany.
So you're talking about the soul is like a
Yeah.
SOUL.
These have natural practicality for energy, not just for weather deflection, but some kind of harnessing of that energy. I mean, you see that the Dutch have windmills, you know, and they have water mills. So it seems practical that all of these places were more than just for defense, but actually for, you know, harnessing the water power as it moved.
Apparently, I don't have 100% accurate knowledge on Denmark because this whole area, the island I just zoomed in on, is
Where's
Sjælland.
this? Copenhagen? Yeah, I've been there. This is right outside of Christiania. Yeah. This is a good spot. Like where they have like crazy amounts of hills, I've noticed too. All of those fortresses, they're either dug into the ground, so everything is very high around it, which seems very strange that you would have a lowered trench that's deeper than everywhere else. Or you've got places that are built up, you know, which seems also like these hills.
Hmm.
And Danish friends watching, check me on that. Go check out some of your military forts and notice the weird depth to the inside of them.
Holland Sjælland, which is the same as Sealand, whole land.
So I'm just thinking about the Ice Age. We like we so many stuff for picture, and they been like heavily covered by like a dirt or sand, or people talking about mud flood, right? Mud flood.
Yes.
The mud flood could be like a side effect from the ice age. If you have fast melting, I the process of because you have suddenly you have very like a warm weather, right? So we have a massive melting of this ice age glaciers. So it's like a very unstable a period of time is very unstable. So you've been extremely cold, and then maybe extreme hot, right? Like it's not a very stable temperature. The weather is changing very fast.
Yeah, there's a thing about that. I remember in school, the permafrost Arctic feedback loop. So the water
Feedback loop,
itself will
okay.
reflect, and let me get a picture of it real quick.
Okay. So I just think about this situation, and
the way water melts, then what's going to happen is it's going to make a reflector, and then that warms, and then it causes it to melt faster. So it also works as about both ways though. So you can speed this up, and then the lack of salt will cause ice to freeze, and then you could have this huge amount of thawing. As you said, there'd be sediment, and so sediment would cause a flood that included mud. I mean, that's a reasonable hypothesis. another thing I wanted to say about when we're looking at the mud floods that like Mike's been pointing out, all these spots that look like they might have been fortifications for a giant flood, whether it be not just mud but also this sort of biblical idea of a deluge. Is a lot of water in a fast period of time in all of these places, and it would have been necessary to build some sort of I mean, do you want to explain, Mike, a bit about the mythos, I guess, the Dutch mythos of flooding and territories underwater?
Well, I'm with Lin there in the whole rapid climate change idea of where some of these forts got demolished by rapid climate change. Definitely.
So some of the things that the Dutch tell you, in school, right, or in like fairy tales and in legend, folk tales, right?
It's not even folk tales, man. We live under the sea.
Yeah.
I live under the sea. I live 3 meters below the sea level. Right here.
Yeah, 10 feet's a pretty big wave, actually. I mean, I'd be enjoying. That'd be a serious surf, to be honest. So,
Yeah. 10 feet under the sea.
So I mean, like a lot of the Dutch stories. I mean, even the people in America. I don't know if it's the same. I would assume you're just inundated with it. But the Dutch Americans talk about the necessity of finding new lands because they were forced out because of flooding, and it seems like that's
Without our dikes, we would probably be under the water. Yeah, most of the stuff you see here was under the water. This was an island. This whole area. This was the Beating Island. This is the one of the biggest dikes in Europe. It's 60 kilometers, and this was a sea. This whole area where I'm going over with the mouse right now is new land, all made in I think
wow.
50s.
So that's interesting. The Dutch are still doing it. They're making it. It's a modern example of this being a fabricated shape. And like, why would they do that? Well, do they have a reason? I'm sure that it helps with the nature, the water.
Agriculture.
Yeah.
Agriculture. This was an island. Urk.
Do you know any stories about the tulip trade?
I don't know a whole lot other than that.
Sorry?
We stole tulips from the Turks.
Do you know anything? You stole tulips from the Turks. Interesting.
Yeah, we stole the tulips from the Turks. That's where they originated from.
You know that makes sense because the term tulip is like an Arabic word. I think it means turban originally.
Well, if you turn the tulip around, you got kind of a turban.
And that's an interesting correlation. Do you know anything about this, Lean? What we're talking about? There was a thing called the tulip trade, and so this is a big part of the history. In the 1600s, Dutch Formosa was famous because before cryptocurrency, they trade before Bitcoin. Tulips were the thing.
Yeah,
and I remember living on a street in a country in Chile. Actually, it was in Chile. They had a street called Los Tulipanes, which is Spanish for the tulips. It was one of the most expensive streets 200 or 300 years ago. But now it's just whatever. But it still has the architecture, and they have basements, and the houses are they look kind of low by today's standards because they're deep in. But this whole infrastructure of creating live tulips all across the world required all these boats. And it's crazy that looking at Taiwan, so let's go back to that for a second. Dutch Formosa, as I spell it, SA.
Okay.
So looking at Dutch Formosa explains a lot about their involvement with the area because they were going and picking up agriculture, making colonies and trading and things like that. But what it doesn't explain is not necessarily where they get all of the indigenous language and also this connection with Sealand, because Sailland or Sealand and Soulland seem to be, you know, like on the other side in Macau, right? They've got the same thing. Oh, can we go back again, Mike? Can you show the other Sealand in Greenland real quick?
Greenland. Was there a Sealand in Greenland?
It's on the west coast of Greenland. Is it not on the...
Yeah. No, it's not taking me there. I did have a Sealandia in Brazil, but I'm not sure if I bookmarked that one.
Well, so I'll go really quickly onto my screen because I've got some pictures of it. Sealand in Greenland, of course, is a military base, and you know, of course it is. And it's hard to get pictures of, so I don't really blame you. But there's a lot of interesting stuff going on the west coast of Greenland, especially when it gets connected to Newfoundland. And then also you look at some of the architecture they have there. But in the Sealand region, oh, here's another. Do you know anything from Disco Land?
No, I don't know anything about Disco Land, but the moment you mentioned it, I was like,
Disco Land, Greenland. Okay, Disco Land and Disco Bay. Okay, so Disco Bay, on the coast, on the southwest coast of Greenland, and here's kind of what it looks like. It's got this sort of embedded into rock look, and you know, Greenland's got a lot of it looks like the remnants of volcanic activity or something led to its being like a permafrost in the region. But you know, there's also these crazy ice sheets all around it that make it hard to reach. But what's weird is it's outside of Sealand, and you know, it's connected to Disco Land, which is full of really, really great mineral content and really heavy amounts of iron. It's like a metal island basically. So it gets the idea that this was a volcano, expelled out all the resources. And so it's another connection to the Sealand thing. And then Estland, another name for Sealand, you know, and that's, you know, what he was saying is, you know, the island of Denmark is this error. I don't want you to see that. But Sealand means soul land. And so the sails and the soul, the wind in the sails, but the soul, you know, connecting is pretty interesting. And once you start looking into this idea that like Tartary was connected through boats, you know, I mean, there could have been, it sounds like there were blimps, but at very least, there's lots of boats that connected this place through these different regions of sail lands. And so, you know, that might explain also Tasmus finding the old Tasmus.
I found Sealandia in Brazil.
Yeah.
Little town in Brazil.
Let me just find Tasmus, isn't it? I want to get a picture of Tasmanian. Wait, was it Rasmus? It's Rasmus. No. Tasmus, Tasmania. Tasman. His name, Tasman, Tasman.
Are you looking for the explorer?
Yeah, Tasman. What's his name? What?
Abel Tasman.
Abel Tasman. That's funny. Abel Tasman. This guy with his globe and his weird, freaky family. And he's supposed to be, and so you got this great picture that they show. And so this picture, and you're going to give me, anyone should give me flack for saying this, but I'm going to just say I think it's very interesting that in the perspective of this picture.
I'm trying to read that. That's
Okay.
Dutch or Old Dutch.
Oops, what happened just now?
I don't know.
It's all your fault. Okay, here you go. able. What?
All right, this describes how he is in Murderer's Bay on the 15th of December. A are our ships. B are the Prakuwen who are trying to get aboard. I'm not sure what this is. This is Old Dutch, so I have to.
Well, people trying to get aboard the boats and then being shot
probably
at,
boats,
and thrown off the boats. And then D, let's see, what's D? Is the Voethoning van.
All right, that's the demonstration or showing of the what's that?
Fatsun?
Can you go back to D and show what it is so I can
D, these giants on the boat, the oversized boat. See, because those other boats are tiny right next to it,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny. And then, like literally right next to it. And then this boat has these guys, which have huge heads, which, the other guys don't, by the way. I mean, they're tiny, so you can't tell. But these guys have these sort of cadensis skulls, and they're rowing also, of course. And their clothes are really odd. Let's go with that, too. And so D is D.
Yeah, it's just remind me religion about Yonaguni.
Yeah, it's like the Anunnaki.
Yes, Yonaguni.
Yonaguni. Do you know Yonaguni underwater structure?
Oh, the Naguni. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, like let me show you my screen.
Yeah.
Can you see my? Can you see my screen?
There we go.
It's underwater ruins of Yonaguni and the legion of the giants. So this structure is in the legion is built by giants. It's built by giants.
And it's all flooded. This
Long times ago. It's pretty close to Taiwan. It's most
wow, right there.
most
Yonaguni.
close. Yonaguni is very close to Taiwan. So we have this region, indigenous people there. I seen this region in our museum, and you write about indigenous people talking about this Yonaguni, or somehow they can hire these these giants and build some structure for them, for the indigenous people.
Can you zoom a little closer in, Mike, on the Star Fortress there?
There's nothing to see. It's under the water.
Oh, okay. Well, but it's right off that interesting though. Look at that rock and tell me that doesn't seem almost pointed though.
Wait a minute.
That
I'm
coast
for an image on the Yonaguni monument that made me think, well, this could tie into. There you go.
Actually, there are a lot of the underwater structure around this area. I believe so. So because the sea level is lower than nowadays. It's like 100 meter, at least 100 meter lower than nowadays sea level. And maybe at that time, people can simply working from China to Taiwan.
It looks like they would have had a great road for it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it makes it kind of hard to Google map the stuff when it's underwater. I find that to be the most frustrating part. It's 70% or more water. Otherwise, it's pretty great. Wow, but look at some of these pointed stuff, you know? Some of these angles. That one, there we go. Lots of cuts. So I think that there's a lot to be said for this region. I'm pretty convinced that this is probably the most this region is where we're finding right now a lot of stuff. It's where it's connecting so much with the West and the East Indies, but also with the Far East. What's also interesting is it's also this swirl here that we're saying is this sort of where we're finding the evidence of so many different types of hominids from different, from the Floriensis to the Heidelbergensis to the Homo sapien. And, there's just a lot of different kinds of humanoids, not so much where you might have expected them in Africa, like later, yeah, but like sort of a primordial spot here.
Yeah, also in Indonesia, we can still visiting the pyramid.
And Lin, you were looking at some pyramids where you got.
Yeah, it's I've been visited the pyramid at Indonesia. So particularly this one. Yeah, I've been there. I have some photo, but I need to upload to.
Yeah, dig them up for sure.
I think it's in the Flickr, but it's.
Borobudur, yeah. I know what's in the bells. All the bells house a Buddha, and if you can touch it, you are in touch with the Buddha. Small Buddha that sits inside the bell, and if you have arms long enough to be able to touch that Buddha, you are in touch with the Buddha.
Is that hard to do? I mean, like, can you just go?
I don't know. I haven't been there. My stepfather went there, and he told me.
Did he do it?
Buddha.
You could not.
I didn't do it. I didn't go there.
Wait. But did your uncle? Or whomever? Did he get to touch the Buddha?
No, he didn't. His arms were too short.
Well, that's just brutal.
Oh, and about this place, this pyramid, it's been researched like using a ground penetrating radar, and some kind of chamber has been found inside this pyramid.
Whoa.
So there's some kind of like a hidden chamber.
All these smashed looking pieces just look so, it looks like electricity or something.
So you can, as you can see, this stone, and when you you can put your you use your hand to push, not push, hit the stone, and this stone can sound like a very musical instrument. It can sound like a metal, right? Like you hit some kind of metal, and it sounds like that. Not like a usual stone, but it sounds like a metal. and you can see, yeah, and you can see those like strange mark in every stone. They have some kind of strange mark. Let
Right.
me try to find a larger picture. So you can see this one. It has some kind of strange,
Indentation, like it's
uh,
been cut into, or it was.
yeah, like being cut by some kind of unknown tools, unknown tools. In like you can, it's like a some people might say it's like a rock soften technology.
So something I thought was interesting about Malaysia, um, is the Malaysian rainforest is like 130 million years old, supposedly. It has all sorts of flora and fauna that are um, unique to it, and they're rapidly deforesting for palm oil, for Nutella, and different kinds of things that people like to eat, and just to move people in. But I'm starting to think we're going to find, if we don't find star forts, at least we'll find some sort of dinosaur-like creatures in the depths of the rainforest here. There's just so much out here, and it's a little smaller than Australia, but it's a lot greener. There's a lot of territory here that's just completely